Thanks for returning to another awesome episode. Another totally stacked episode of the Wild Edible World.
It's a really good episode.
Really good episode. The Wild Edible World podcast. I'm only one of your hosts, but this episode, you can call me Jeff Goldenbloom.
And it's your boy, Snoop Doggy Dogwood. We're here to talk to you about a delicious, delicious little fruit ski called the Cornelian Cherry.
Cornelian Cherry, yeah. A lot of people might not have heard of this. A lot of people might be familiar with it. It's kind of hit and miss sometimes. But the scientific binomial is Cornus mas. And there's like 40 different varieties of this fruit.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not even a cherry. It's not even a real cherry.
Yeah.
We're not really sure why or where the cherry name kind of got attached to this plant.
Resembles it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to be kind of loose with the terminology of cherry, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I can just call a cherry.
Yeah, no offense to any cherries out there listening to this podcast. They look nothing like you. You're so unique and special.
So special. So yeah, we're here to talk about the Cornelian cherry. I brought a little. I myself actually have two varieties grown right by me, and they are pretty visually distinctively different. The seeds are
different.
Pretty similar. Just again, hugely different in size. One's really small, one's really big. One's really red, one's really pale.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll start talking first before we get into how they taste and what they look like. We'll start with what we usually try to start with, which is like the most recognizable feature of the plant. In my opinion, my humble foraging opinion, you're going to notice this plant most easily when it's flowering.
Yes.
So not the fruit. The fruit isn't as distinctive when it's on the tree. It's not as alarming or eye-catching. The blooms, however, really, really, really are.
They're golden
beautiful.
Blooms, if you will.
Golden blooms, indeed. So they erupt in these like big yellow clusters that kind of look like what do they look like? Forsythia. If you're familiar with Forsythia, they kind of look like that, except they're just like really shrunken down and really tiny. So by that I mean they have 4 petals, but there are going to be many flowers erupting from one spot. So they have these like pods that come out in the beginning of spring before the leaves even unfurl from the tree. It's one of the few trees that blooms first. It's one of the first thing that flowers when everything is brown and gray, and
they're
we're really
striking.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they're beacons. They're like fireworks happening in the trees. It's amazing, and they transition directly from the flower to the fruit. So with successful pollination of these fruits, with these flowers, sometimes you can end up with 8 or 9 Cornelian cherries all stacked up in one little branch. But that's one of the things I personally like about it, is that it does produce a lot of fruit.
Heck yeah.
So I think some people might qualify that as an invasive, but I don't think it's a very aggressive grower. You're going to be able to find it in some disturbed areas.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it grows too well from seed because, while we were researching it, it says the best way to propagate is by cutting.
Yeah.
So normally things that do that, they don't seed well, or
yeah. I didn't do enough research to find out if it was more to do with fruit expectation or as far as successful germination. But
Sure.
I personally would follow that advice. But they end up places somehow, and it's not all through cutting, so it can't be impossible.
True.
So they have these bright golden flowers. Eventually, those die back, and once we're solidly into spring, the leaves come out and start unfurling. And what you have is pretty pale underside green, normal kind of leafy colors. They actually kind of remind me of buckthorn
Very similar.
leaves. So they've got this one stem down the center. They're very long and oval, and they kind of come to a point. They're only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I'd say 2 inches long, and then they have the one stem down the center and opposite veining all the way down.
And opposite leaves themselves, right?
Opposite leaves themselves, and even the branches are opposites too. So it's all opposites all around the whole tree. So proceeding further through the year, after we get the leaves, the next things that come out are the Cornelian cherries.
Yeah, those
and
green guys.
Yeah, they're green. They're big and green, and they have some uses there too. You were mentioning they look like olives, and in Italy they use them like that?
In Italy they brine them in your normal brine, olive or vinegar and salt, and use them as olives. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. That's a pretty common practice, I think, with a lot of unripe fruits just all over the place. I know you can do that with wild plums as well, and I think that has a lot to do with preserving your harvest as much as possible, even whenever it's unripe. And you're benefiting the plant whenever you're pruning all these extra fruits off. So if you are familiar with, if you own a cherry, apple tree or a peach tree or something, you're gonna need to pick some of these fruit out. It puts out way more fruit than the tree itself can structurally handle.
Yeah, and it seems like just judging from the information that we found while we were researching, it seems like it flowers a lot, and then about half of those flowers get actually pollinated.
Yeah, you can optimally get up to 8 or 9, but most of the time you're only getting 4.
Yeah, because it says it has 10 to 25 blossoms, and to go from that to clusters of, like you said, 8, 9 tops.
Yeah,
that's so. It must be. It's trying,
It's trying. Well, and it's also, it's a plant strategy as well, where it creates this abundance to almost ensure its success. So yeah, we got these fruit that come out when they're green. They're hardly edible at all. Obviously, there's processing, like we were just talking about, that you can do to render them edible. But they ripen. They take several months to ripen. This is one of the first flowering fruits, and then it sits there and just grows and grows and grows until August. So we're at the very end of August when we're recording this right now, basically on the cusp of September. I have two varieties here, and I'd say the darker, more ripe one definitely ripened within the last week or two.
And they look great, man. Those are deep.
Oh, they're so delicious. They're purple.
Deep purple, yeah.
I have a purple variety and a larger red variety right by me, and they taste different. They look different. The trees look completely the same, but the fruit themselves are quite a bit different. And so they can ripen into a variety of colors. I believe the most common you're going to be seeing, especially in urban areas or places where they might be intentionally planted, you're going to have kind of large teardrop-shaped red fruits, and they can be dark red, but most of the time they're pretty clear cherry red. I think it's not hard to speculate why they attached the name cherry to it, because it's got a very cherry appearance. Even the purple ones, these look like black cherries, just tiny ones. So that's the fruit. That's the bark is kind of gray, silvery. I don't have too many notes about the bark. I think the most recognizable things to really pay attention to. If you can catch the flowers and the fruit, then there's really no doubt what this plant is.
Yeah, visually that's about the best indicators. As far as uses and stuff, though, I mean, this stuff goes way back.
Yeah.
The wood of this particular tree or bush is prized for being just incredibly dense. They used it for weaponry in ancient Greece, and they even have an interchangeable name for their spear that they used. I think it's cornus or something along those lines.
Oh.
Something having to do with the Latin name.
But it was the same name as the tree?
Yeah, because of the density of the
that's cool.
of the wood, and
legendary.
Yeah, super cool. And we were talking a little bit in Asian culture, and they use the leaves for tea, which is supposed to help with your jing, which is Chinese for essence. So another one that you can use a bunch of the different parts.
Man, God knows my jing could use some help.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, your jing's looking a
little faded. I know it. Yeah, so this isn't a North American native plant, and like we were saying, how it kind of does fruit prolifically, and they do have rather large seeds. I'm not going to toss these seeds out into the wild or whatever. Steve's thinking about growing some, so he's going to keep it.
I'm trying.
But yeah, I don't consider this an invasive plant. I just, it's non-native. And actually, I think they were able to. I'm not sure if there's a for sure pinpoint on when it was first introduced into the United States, but there is a written documented record of Thomas Jefferson having planted 4 of these trees in 1774. So, not that they all came from that, because obviously now we can get Cornelian cherries from all over the world, and
Sure.
but they are native to Southern Europe and Southwest Asia. So those are the communities that have been using this plant for the longest amount of time. And yeah, I read similar things about like the hardness of the wood is actually a lot of ancient Chinese medicine. They were using properties of the plant to reaffirm like how medicinal and good it is for you. So part of that being was that the wood was so strong. They're like, this has got to be good for you, because like everything about this plant is just so strong and invigorating, and yeah, not to say strong again, but so that's what the plant looks like. That's where you can find it. Okay, so I didn't say where you can find it. As far as its growing patterns, it actually tolerates a lot of different soils. It likes acidic soil, but it can tolerate alkalinic soil to a degree. But you're going to find this plant most likely either intentionally placed in...
for its like visual appeal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the reasons it has become so successful in a place that it isn't native, is because of its flowering properties, how early it flowers. People love that. I love it.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
you can find this place in a lot of intentionally planted in people's yards, or I have found it alongside sidewalks, basically like right by a tunnel that goes under a bridge. And that's where I find my Cornelian cherries. So I'm not even sure that those are intentionally planted, because they're covered in a horribly invasive ivy. Like there's all sorts of crap going on right there that I couldn't possibly deal with. But there's these Cornelian cherries just hanging out, doing a great job. So they tolerate both acidic and alkalinic soil, and they can survive up to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So they can actually grow in pretty cold areas as well. So I think the USDA range for them, if anybody's familiar with that, is around 4 to around 8. So
That's awesome.
I don't know what this means, but I was told we live in Zone 5B.
5B, that's us representing.
Yeah, happy to find those Cornelian cherries. Okay, so I think that's the end of our first little section, and then after this, we're gonna eat some more. We've already been noshing on a whole jar that I brought.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
We're going to eat a little bit more, talk about how it tastes and the variety of things you can do with it, and maybe some special events that we've got coming up that we'd love to share with you guys. So stay tuned and come back after the ads. Don't leave us! All right, thank you for coming back from the ad break.
And welcome back.
We're here too.
That's us.
So we wanted to start off this second section with a little bit of an announcement. We have a really cool event coming up, and we wanted to give everybody that listens to this podcast that might be in our general area a couple weeks' notice to be able to attend.
That sweet and kind and generous brewery that we talked about during our elderflower, elderberry, elder episode we're going to do a little collabo.
Yeah, we're going to do a talk with Bubble House Brewing in Lisle, Illinois.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of the ingredients that they've used in some of their beers. Mm-hmm. I contributed the Spruce Tips to their Penguin Boots American Pale Ale. And then there is another beer that has elderflower in it that I did not contribute, but is still just as tasty. And we're going to educate some people about them. So September 15th, which is a Thursday, we're going to spend an hour and a half at Bubble House Brewing in Lisle, Illinois, just talking about these ingredients, talking about a little bit of an introduction to foraging safely. We'll have a couple slides on what these ingredients look like, how you can find them, how to harvest them, what nutrients and flavors they bring to the table. And then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A where we can also talk to John, the head brewer and owner at Bubble House, a little bit about how he uses them, what part in the process he used them in, and what he was looking for. And you can ask us some questions about foraging and plants and gardening and all sorts of fun. Whatever your heart desires, we're at your fingertips. So.
And then we'll probably be able to, taste some lovely
man,
things.
the most important part of it all, you get free beer.
Oh, yeah.
So when you come to this event, not only is it a free event, there's no tickets or anything. All you got to do is show up. But you also get a couple free pours of beer so that you can taste what we're talking about when we're talking about it. So to really immerse yourself in the flavor and truly understand. So please come.
Please.
It'd make us so happy.
It's going to be so much fun. Why would you not come?
It's going to be cool. It's free.
Yeah,
so
just do it. Everybody's doing it.
Everybody will be doing it, and you're going to feel like a loser. So... yeah, I mean, I guess we got these cherries here. We're going to taste a couple of them. So the purple variety is the purple variety is about as small as my fingernail, my pinky fingernail. So we're talking like a ½ inch. It's pretty round. It is very obviously purple, and the juice on the inside is very, very deep red. So these have ripened to a very soft texture. They're pretty mushy, and I think they're best that way. We were talking earlier about...
I like them both ways, personally.
I mean, I do too. If you find a way...
I like them soft. I like them firm.
With a little bit of astringency when they're still firm.
Definitely.
I'm the kind of freak that kind of enjoys that experience. So whenever I'm munching down on choke cherries and your mouth is all drying out, I kind of like that. It's like enjoying wine in a weird way or something. But when these are slightly underripe, they can have the same effect, but they're still so good.
Oh, they're lovely.
I'm like so sour, but not too sour to make it go like, blah.
That might be my favorite part, is how sour they are.
Oh, they're so sour. I love sour flavors.
Good. Yeah.
So it does have an inedible seed. I mean, I guess it's not inedible. It's not toxic. It is just very hard. It's going to be like trying to eat an olive pit. So there is a lot of comparing these to olives, and I think that's pretty accurate. The pit on the inside looks like an olive pit, and I imagine it's as hard. I haven't tried to chew it and eat it. However, you can use it as a coffee substitute. So
which is awesome.
Yeah, there's documents that show like you can roast it and grind it up and use it as a coffee substitute. I've never tried it. I'm probably not going to try it because I'm pretty skeptical of anything called a coffee substitute, that it's actually going to taste like coffee. I'm sure if you roast this nut and grind it up, it tastes like roasted ground nuts, which is basically what coffee is. It's not going to have those like specific flavors. I am in full support of like blending it with other things like chicory root and dandelion root and getting like a bit of a blend and maybe a little bit of real cherries in there with some of their pits in there, and then you get some like almondy, actually chocolatey, roasty flavors, and that's really going to kind of complete the spectrum. I think I expect whenever I'm drinking a cup of Joe, and what I wouldn't get with a cup of fake Joe.
Yeah, I think I like coffee too much to...
That's what I'm saying.
To, play around behind its back.
Wow, you said that so much better than I did. So I've made my way through a couple small purple ones. I'm going to try the larger red ones. So when I was just explaining to Steve over the break, like how I collected these, you don't want to pull them off of the tree, actually. You want to come at the right time. It's similar to like mulberry collecting, where basically if you can, most ideally, you're going to lay a big blanket out underneath this tree and then shake the ever-living crap out of it and have them all drop onto the towel or blanket or tarp, whatever you're using.
That's a really good comparison, actually. mulberry compared to mulberries.
Yeah, because they disconnect. They fall off the stems so easily whenever they're ready. They want to fall off the tree. So what I do, since I wasn't collecting that many of them, and I didn't have, it's right by a road, so I wasn't going to lay down like a tarp or whatever. I just collected with my hands, spent about 15 minutes, and I collected more than we might actually eat this whole jar.
Yeah, that's probably...
we kind of do
That's
that.
probably going to be gone.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
There's a couple trees. It's not a big deal. But I was just kind of cupping my hand underneath the cherry and just like prodding it with my fingers. I'm not pulling it at all. I called it tickling them a little bit, but I don't want to be
old
too
cherries.
I don't want to be too visual with that. But the point is that they drop into your hand without any effort or resistance. And then otherwise, you can give them a little squeeze. See how tender they are. And if they're firm, you're going to get a little bit of astringency or extra sourness. But if they're nice and soft and kind of squishy, you can, as with normal fruit, you're going to expect a little bit more sugar development, more ripeness, and a little bit less astringency. So I found a appropriately squishy cherry that I tickled off the tree, and I will, let's try it. And right off the bat, it's like a whole different flavor. It's lighter. I don't know, it's fruitier. I don't know, which one do you like better, Steve?
I like them both better. I can't choose. They each have their properties. Like I said, the darker ones, the more ripe, darker ones are jammy. They taste like jam.
Yeah.
Just straight off the pit. And the brighter red ones are just, they're bright and they're astringent, but like not at all in a bad way.
No.
They're just really good, man.
Yeah.
The texture's really nice. If
Yes.
they're firm, the texture's just great.
It's very much like a cherry.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like a cherry. Yeah.
It's got cherry juices. It's got the cherry flesh. I don't know. It's really, really, really good. But before we run out of time, I don't want to spend all of our second portion just
eating,
munching on cherries over the mic. So let's get some interesting nutritional information. There's some cool stuff out here about this.
Yeah, there definitely is. So, I've been going back and forth looking for Cornelian cherry info and, to get you some numbers on this and that. And we decided that we're just gonna bypass a lot of that and just tell you all the really good things about it. So, it is high in vitamin C, 61% of your daily value. It does have some sugar in it, at least for the like farm raised. So there are certain varieties that are raised for mass production. For I'm not sure, what do they use Cornelian cherries in?
Couldn't tell you. I actually didn't look that up
either.
at all.
I didn't look that up either.
But there are 40 different varieties.
Yeah,
and
40 different varieties.
Because of the difference in colors, like we are going to experience a little bit of difference in the nutrition through.
And
all
then
of
just
these,
like other fruits that we harvest, the wild fruits, the fruits that you're going to find as you're walking down the trail or down the street, down the sidewalk, is going to have a much less of a sugar content than the treats that are being fed certain nutrients and that are made to attract people to come get them.
Yeah, that have been cultivated.
Yeah, exactly,
too,
cultivated.
Because
sure.
this has been humans have been interacting with this plant for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So hundreds, probably even longer. That's just the documented human influence. We've probably been selecting bigger, better cherries for quite some time.
And if you are someone that's looking to make some Cornelian cherry wine, for instance, maybe those higher sugar contents are going to be better for you. They're going to create a higher ABV wine, or maybe certain flavors you're looking for. But there's all sorts of other stuff. What was the other nutrient that we were talking about? Potassium, so much potassium. Your full daily value, and I think it was 100 grams. I'm not positive about that.
It's an incredible source of potassium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there were a couple minerals, but I don't have those in front of me. But there's a bunch of places that you can go to find this if you're not able to attain wild varieties. I'm going to a WEWP farm this weekend to grab a cultivated variety just to have some side-by-side comparisons.
And that's awesome.
It's fun. It's
Where
cool.
is that?
So that's over in Iowa, actually.
Oh, very cool. So
So,
you're doing a little bit traveling.
from here, from us, it's only 3 hours.
Okay.
Just under 3 hours.
That's so cool.
That's a pretty quick, easy weekend trip. I'm going there to collect Cornelian cherries and hazelnuts because I have
Excellent.
both wild varieties in my possession, and I'd love to compare them with cultivated
Sure.
varieties.
Yeah.
So look for something like that near you. Go to, if you're in our area or you're in Iowa somehow, you can go to Red Fern Farm. That's where I'm going.
That's excellent.
So,
Very cool. Other than that, I mean, just your other traditional uses you could think of for berries plus more. So like Cornelian cherry cheesecake, other berry usages, the juice. It's used in savory concepts like they use it in sweet and sour soups in Russia.
Nice.
They use it in meat sauces or sauces for meat. So if you can imagine like a really nice cut of something with even probably like a nice braised pork with some Cornelian cherry compote or something along those. I want that right now.
God, that
I haven't
sounds
eaten
so good.
dinner. That's
I'm starving.
Yeah, that's probably why.
That's why we're housing this entire jar of cherries.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I've seen other really popular uses for it too, like more in the liquid realm where I think you mentioned shrubs earlier. I think a shrub would be a really good idea. A vinegar is also would be really awesome. And I actually saw a recipe for that for if you have particularly extra sour or pretty astringent berries, because some of them, like with choke cherries and a lot of other wild plants that have a lot of different varieties across the country, you're going to find a bunch of it's crab apples. Every tree is different. You're going to have to try them and find out. And some of these are going to retain their astringency for a little bit longer than you'd like to use them, or past ripeness, and in that case you can make vinegar out of them, which I think is a really great idea. Syrups as well, like simple syrups, they make a really good simple syrup. Steve mentioned fruit leather. I think these would make a phenomenal fruit leather.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, I think that's the last things we have to say about this really fun plant that we've just gotten to know together.
And we hope you'll look for it, man.
Yeah, I hope you'll look for it, too. I hope you guys have success finding it.
They're all good ones, but this is a good one.
Definitely keep an eye out for it in the spring. If you don't find it this year, look out in March. March of next year, you're going to be able to find these big golden blooms. There's 20 of them in one spot, like one little node on the branch. So a whole tree covered in them. You're gonna notice it for sure this time.
Also, if you come to Bubble House, we'll tell you where to find them.
Yeah,
that's a little Easter egg at our talk.
Yeah,
We'll tell you where to find Cornelian cherries.
Yeah, I can drop some geo points. I can find some. So I think to leave off this episode, I found a really cool little blurb from a Roman poet named Ovid, and I think I'll just read that to close us out. So thank you for joining us for one more episode where we find the best food low tide, curbside, and trailside. And earth untroubled, unharmed by hoe or plowshare, brought forth all those men had a need for, and those men were happy, gathering berries from the mountainsides, Cornell cherries, or blackcaps, and edible acorns.